calls it a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Welcome on, Chris Taylor.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Matthew Moreno, here to break down a Dodgers loss, 5-4, snapping a 5-game winning streak. Matt, I texted you earlier. My post-game shows we were on a nice little run, and then you had to come and mess this all up.
Yeah, I guess. Although I will push back because Daniel and I did a post-game show Monday. So the last time I was on, they also won. So I think this one we can lay blame squarely at the Dodgers' feet, and specifically on defense. I mean, maybe even offense with the way they hit or didn't hit. But my apologies to everybody for the loss. If you want to pin it on me, we do think I see that our chat is going. There's plenty of lively discussion, so we thank everybody for definitely still tuning in after a loss.
Yes, absolutely. Again, the Dodgers fall 5-4 in a game in which 4 of the 5 runs they allowed were unearned as a result of 3 errors. They give up just 4 hits and 5 runs scored against them. Walker Buehler going to be a massive talking point in just a second. Kike Hernandez, a couple opportunities to come through in a big spot, did not. A big decision by Dave Roberts when it came to Gavin Lux and Miguel Rojas, as well as some fun Mookie Betts conversation to have towards the end of the show, as he is not staying in the team hotel for very interesting reasons, if you hadn't heard that story. But Matt, let's just jump right to what I think we all knew was going to be the biggest talking point. Sometimes with these post-game shows, you and I know exactly what segment A is going to be, and it was going to be Walker Buehler. We didn't know if it was going to be, wow, Walker Buehler looked good, or, you know what, we'll take that, or, holy smokes, this is a disaster. From my view, Matt, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, this was the closest to the latter as you could possibly get. I know the box score says 3 1/3 and only 1 earned run, but hard to call this anything short of a borderline disaster for Walker Buehler.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, hey, he only gave a 1 earned run. Like, what's the problem here? The first inning, it was a scoreless first inning. The Dodgers had a lead. Everything was going great. Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of what I kind of expected from the standpoint of, like, I didn't anticipate him to be overly sharp. He hasn't really been at all this season. I mean, he had one very good start against the Reds, and the rest have been, kind of a mixed bag at best. And even his rehab assignment, that was kind of up and down. He did end it on a positive note with OKC, but walks have kind of been an issue, and we saw that tonight. And like, I was hoping that going into it, he would pitch 4 innings, maybe give up about 3 runs or so. So the bar was relatively low, and it's not necessarily an indictment on like the type of pitcher I think he can be. I think it's just where he is right now.
Yeah, and this game started out exactly the way that you wanted to, as if you were a Dodgers fan, which obviously everybody in here is, except for maybe a couple people in the comments. But if you happen, let's just say hypothetically, to have bet on a run to be scored in the first inning, the way this game started for the Dodgers was pretty much perfect. Reach on an error, single walk without ever recording an out. The Dodgers are up 1-0. Gavin Lux strikes out, Kike sac fly, Kevin Kiermaier double. And all of a sudden it's 3-0 before Walker Buehler had even taken the mound in this one. And you're thinking, all right, nice little way for him to ease in, not feeling the pressure, not going to have like high stress pitches necessarily right out the gate because he's already got a 3-0 lead. Walk to start the game. And if not for Kevin Kiermaier, who I've obviously been critical of, making a catch, an incredible throw. Austin Barnes, who I've been critical of, making a great catch, tag, block combination that I don't know how it wasn't challenged. If not for that combination, this would have been ugly. He ends up getting out of the first scoreless, but that's why I say, even though it says 1 earned run, you could argue that the 4 runs may have been underselling how bad he was in this one. He ends up giving up 3 runs in the bottom of the second, and it felt like from that point forward, Matt, he was just hanging on for dear life. But if not for that Kiermaier catch and Austin Barnes tag at home, this one, I think 3.1 would not have been the innings pitch line for Walker Buehler.
Yeah, probably not. And that is fair. Kiermaier definitely bailed him out in that inning. But also the flip side is then we saw the Dodgers defense let him down. Whereas if they make those routine plays, do things look a little bit different? Does it just feel a little bit different? So it's, I mean, maybe, but we don't know, right? Like maybe maybe it's just a little bit better type thing, and where it's not as concerning. I mean, I know, so I saw you send out a tweet like referencing a stat Steven Nelson shared in terms of getting, it was a lot of nerd stuff. So to
Yeah.
me, basically, I boiled it down to he didn't get guys to swing and miss or chase a whole lot,
Yeah.
which is concerning, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's tough. Like, one thing that's going to be interesting, not to completely sidetrack or derail the conversation, is what happens with Walker Buehler moving forward. Because
Yeah.
the last time he was up with the Dodgers, they were in position to say, hey, if he struggles, fine. If we lose this week, if we lose his start this
Yeah.
week, we'll get it back next week. That's not the case right now. I know we're going to get into some NL West stuff later. That's not the position. And Dave even said before the game, with somebody of Buehler's caliber and pedigree, like, you do want to give him a little bit of a rope, but he said, I don't know what that is right now. And I think that is basically him saying, like, if he struggles, like we saw the last time he was up, and then what kind of happened tonight, like, he might not get past maybe one or two more starts.
Yeah, let me unpack this stat that you mentioned from Steven Nelson, because anytime a guy like Walker Buehler comes up and struggles, I'm trying to dig in and say, what's going on? Like, is there a pitch that's not landing? Is there something that's not getting swing and miss? Is it hard contact off a particular pitch? And Nelson kind of gave the hint where he pointed out, hey, the league average for chase rate. So to put this in terms that non-nerds, Matt, like yourself, may be able to understand, basically the average major league pitcher, if he throws 4 pitches outside of the zone, about 1 out of every 4 times he's going to get them to swing on a pitch outside the zone. It's a 28% mark. Walker Buehler last time out, I believe Nelson said, was at 16%, which is obviously very terrible. Tonight it was at 14%. And if you dig into individual pitches, it's even worse. He had 5 changeups that missed the zone, no swings at any of them. 6 curves missed the zone, no swings at any of them. 2 sweepers that missed the zone, no swings at any of them. 12 fastballs that missed the zone, just 1 swing on 43 pitches outside the zone, which, by the way, was about half of his pitches missed the zone. 43 pitches outside of the zone, he got just 6 swings. And what that tells you is, you might be asking, okay, kind of what's the deal? It means they see the stuff out of his hand. So they're sitting on pitches that end up in the zone. And when it's Walker Buehler, who doesn't have the elite fastball that he used to, even if the velocity looks okay, and he doesn't really have elite secondary stuff, there's no swing and miss when they are swinging. And so everything they're touching is in the zone. They're not swinging and missing at anything. And that's the recipe for A, a lot of walks because you're missing the zone. And B, when you aren't missing the zone, you're giving up loud contact. So I think the question you're asking, Matt, as a result of all this is, what do the Dodgers do? They've got a 2.5 game lead in the division. By the way, the Diamondbacks and Padres have each won 10 of their last 11 games. So despite the fact the Dodgers have won 7 of 10 and had 5 in a row before this one, they're losing ground in the division and down to 2.5 games to both of those teams, as I mentioned. I do think it's a really interesting conversation for the Dodgers, because you could say, well, Rever Ryan just got hurt. Walker Buehler comes up. That's a like for like. But there are guys like Justin Robleski, who the expectation seems to be will be pitching for the Dodgers on Friday. There are guys like Landon Knack, who just gave you 4 pretty quality innings in relief yesterday, who are both, I think it's hard to argue, Matt, better options, right? It's hard to argue otherwise than to say they're better options than Walker Buehler. Now, Knack and Robleski can get sent down, no harm, no foul. But, I mean, I think the Dodgers give Walker Buehler one more start. But if the next start looks like this again, Matt, I don't think they have the capacity to mess around, to your point, like they did a month or 2 ago.
Yeah, I agree. And real quick on the stat that you explained for everybody in terms of chase rate and all that, like, I think some of it is, it was easily a ball out of, like, yes, the opposing bat, the Brewers were picking up the pitches well. And I think when Buehler was trying to go out of the strike zone, it was very clearly a ball out of hand. And I think some of that is maybe just not being sharp, not having much feel, and kind of trying to, I know this won't be popular with the chat, but trying to be glass half full type thing. Maybe he gets his legs under him and starts to have the, because the better feel, a better command for pitches type thing. And I know, look, we haven't really seen that at all from him this season. I mean, it's been real sporadic, so it's not a likely bet, but maybe somehow, like, he can kind of help himself if he starts to feel more comfortable out on the mound with his different pitches. To your other question, in terms of the outlook for Buehler, I think he definitely gets one more start with the Dodgers. Yeah. And yeah, if it is like this, then all bets are off moving forward. I don't know, like, it'll be interesting to see how they sort of go about that. Is it back on the injured list? He gave an interview with Bill Plunkett of the OC register, and he said no, like the hip thing wasn't phantom, like it was real.
Okay.
So I mean, maybe then the next time it is going to be potentially a phantom IL.
Yeah, and I see some people in the comments. We appreciate the dialogue as always, saying, "Hey Jeff, you've always been a guy that says it's August. Who cares?" If I'm being honest, I don't care about the 5-4 loss. All I cared about tonight was the Walker Buehler stat line. And when I say I don't care, I wanted the Dodgers to win, of course. I don't think the season is over or the sky is falling. I don't feel different about the Dodgers today than I did yesterday. Because my expectations were low for Walker Buehler, and he pretty much met them. I said 4 innings, 3 earned runs. I was hoping that it would be an encouraging 4 innings, 3 runs. However, the issue here is with Walker Buehler, and a guy who I would say had like kind of a vote of no confidence coming into this one. That vote got louder after tonight. And so to your point, I think it's going to be one more start, and then we'll see. Obviously, if Robleski comes up Friday, how he looks will go a long way towards having that conversation. Can Bobby Miller work his way back towards the rotation at some point? And Landon Knack, again, who's been good. The underlying metrics have not been awesome for Landon Knack, but he's a floor guy to me, and you kind of know what you're getting. And so some interesting stuff there on Walker Buehler. We've got a couple super chats here, so let's get to these. Richard Flores says, Dodgers can't afford to have Ferris in the rotation. Richard, I do want to say we're going to have to pick a new nickname because Jackson Ferris is a pitcher for the Dodgers, and he's very good. There's a lot of people that might be arguing for Ferris to be in the rotation. I know it's a Ferris Bueller joke, but look, we both agree with him, right, Matt? Like, I mean, if it was up to me, if it was up to you, would you even need to see one more start? I think we both expect one more start at least, but I'll be honest, if I was in charge, I think I've seen enough.
Yeah, I mean, removing emotion from it type thing and just going straight results, then definitely. Like, I think it's been too inconsistent. You kind of know what you're sort of going to get. Like, it just doesn't seem like he's going to get on track right now. And so, yeah, if they were to do that, then, well, no, not if they were to do that. Excuse me. If they were to, just take a straight, like not necessarily factoring in, how the Dodgers have operated, like they try to give somebody like Buehler, who has accomplished a lot with the team, like as much rope as possible. But if they weren't, then yes, like I could see that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see. I mean, it is a 2.5 game lead. And again, I haven't looked tonight if the Dodgers still have the best record in the National League. I imagine they do. But if the two teams behind you are the two best teams in baseball over the last couple of weeks, there's not a lot of leeway there. Another super chat here from 300. Walks kill at every level of baseball. Throw in errors. You have a recipe for a loss. I think you summed it up pretty perfectly. I mentioned Walker Buehler's walk total, 4 walks from him. You look at the box score, you see 5 runs and 4 hits, and you're like, how does that check out? Well, 4 walks and 3 errors is the answer to that question. Bad combination for the Dodgers and uncharacteristic too. Like Nick Ahmed, 2-time Gold Glover, he makes a big error. Mookie Betts, of course, makes a big error late in the game. These are just the types of plays that I'm always surprised to see. Obviously, Mookie Betts in right field trying to make a play there, and it goes poorly for him. Nick Ahmed, not exactly the easiest play in the world, but one that you expect him to make. And so, tough night for the Dodgers defense on a night when if Walker Buehler's pitching like that, you kind of need all the help you can get.
Yeah, it's strange with it. I mean, on one hand, like, look, it's a long season. These games, errors happen. What's weird with the Dodgers is they tend to happen in bunches. Like, man, like when they do it, it's like, okay, this is going to be a collective effort tonight. 2-3 guys are going to just, commit some errors. And I know obviously they don't plan on it, but that just is funny how that sort of works out. Not maybe funny is the wrong word to use with everybody tonight, but a little ironic on how that unfolds.
Another super chat from 300 here. The real issue for me with all our pitchers is the inability to pitch past the 5th. Walker is giving you 3 to 4 innings, and it just kills the pen. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with this. There was, the number of times they've gone into like the 7th inning is like 1 time in the last month or something like that. Even Gavin Stone, who pitched pretty well, only gives you 5. Landon Knack thankfully saves the pen. But one night after saving the pen, to have to burn through 4 or 5 guys, again, in the first night of now 7 games in a row in 7 days, it is a tough one. And so the Dodgers just don't have those guys. Like if we're talking about Stone and Robleski and Knack, none of those guys are going to give you length necessarily. I know Stone did early in the season, but at this point with Stone, the way he's pitched over the last month and a half, you're kind of just fortunate if he can get you 5 successful innings. Clayton Kershaw coming off of the surgery, still building himself back up. I'm not expecting anything more than maybe 6 innings total. The exceptions, of course, are Glasnow and Jack Flaherty, who goes tomorrow, who you kind of need to be workhorses for that reason, right? Like it does feel like, Matt, a little bit of added pressure on those two guys. Like 6 is a minimum number for them. I mean, even Yamamoto, by the way, when he comes back, like he's not going to be logging 110 pitch counts. So there's a lot of pressure on Glasnow and Flaherty, I think, on days that they're up to be able to sort of preserve at least half the bullpen.
Yeah, and there are multiple reasons kind of to this question. One is the Dodgers have needed to rely on a lot of young pitchers who are making their MLB debuts this year or are in their second season or 1.5 seasons, if you will, if they came up last year. And so with that, like they're not necessarily conditioned to go deep in the games. I know the Dodgers in general with Dave Roberts have a perception, and I think in some cases it is reality, where they won't let their pitchers go deep, even if they're capable of doing it anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's right now, it's pretty much Glasnow, I guess Flaherty, but Glasnow is like the only one that I feel comfortable saying like he can go 7 innings every time out. I think Flaherty can get into the 7th, maybe not always complete it. But yes, best case scenario, you're going to get 6 from Flaherty. Hopefully Kershaw can get himself up to 6 innings at some point. And then after that, just get used to, hope for 5 innings from the rest of the guys, because they're probably not going to be giving you, unfortunately, much more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Jordan with another super chat here. Again, thanks to everyone leaving us super chats. We'll stop what we're talking about to get to your questions or your comments if you want to leave a super chat. Otherwise, we try and leave a few minutes at the end of the show to get to as many as we possibly can. Jonathan says, tonight shows we need starting pitching. How close is Danny Duffy? He's not coming back, for those that aren't in on the joke that Jonathan's making here. But do the Dodgers need starting pitching? We know about the guys we just mentioned, Glasnow and Flaherty. Yamamoto is expected to join the Dodgers this week just to have eyes on him from Mark Pryor, Dave Roberts, which is a positive sign. Doesn't mean he's going to be back tomorrow, but he's trending in the right direction by all accounts. Clayton Kershaw has put together a couple starts in a row that are encouraging, I would say. Gavin Stone just had his best start in about a month and a half. Landon Knack looked good yesterday. So I think, to me, Matt, the starting pitcher conversation can be framed. It's a beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Are you a glass half full or glass half empty guy? With you, I'll ask, are you a glass half full or a glass half empty guy with the Dodgers rotation at the moment?
At the moment, probably half empty.
Okay.
But I have been encouraged and frankly a little bit surprised with how well things have gone for Yamamoto and his recovery.
Yeah.
And once he's back, I think that does help solve a lot of things, even if he's maybe only giving you 4 innings, 5 innings the first start or two. Because then at that point, if Kershaw kind of keeps trending in the direction of his last 2 starts, like you have a top 4 of Glasnow, Flaherty, Yamamoto, and Kershaw.
Yeah.
And then at that point, your 5th starter, you figure it out. If it's Robleski, if it's Landon Knack, if it's, a bullpen game here or there, like whatever you choose to do, like you can figure out the final month of the regular season with that group leading, with that 4 kind of leading them.
Yeah, I'm with you. Nobody is going to be surprised on this show to know that I'm glass half full about anything in life, in the world, but specifically as it relates to the Dodgers and pitching, for exactly the reason that you're saying. Now, I think it's fair to be concerned short term, and I've kind of been on this corner for the last couple of weeks to say, hey, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Obviously, offensively, with Mookie Betts coming back, you're starting to see some of the it's getting better kind of a deal. But from a pitching perspective, Yamamoto is the quote unquote whale that is out there that you're waiting to come back to sort of set everything into place. Because if Yamamoto comes and slots into that number 3 starter role, then all of a sudden the expectations on Kershaw and on Stone and Robleski and Knack and Miller and Buehler all drop down a level. And all of a sudden it's back into a range where I think those guys can actually meet the level of expectation. From a playoff perspective, the reason I'm encouraged is because, to your point, you only need 4 starting pitchers once you get to the postseason. And if Yamamoto is back and ready for that, then to your point, they've got 4 or 5 guys that you're just saying, okay, one of Kershaw, Stone, Knack, Robleski, Buehler, Miller, one of those guys convince me that I can trust you even a little bit in game 4 and we'll be okay. And heck, if not, we can go bullpen game. And I think I like a lot of the names they have down in the bullpen. So that's why I'm kind of optimistic there. The flip side is in the regular season, 6-man rotation, that's where things get dicey. So let me ask you this, Matt. Let's take the Yamamoto piece out of it. Outside of Yamamoto, Glasnow, and Flaherty. Give me your current trust tree, your trust rankings for Dodgers starting pitchers. Clayton Kershaw, let's say, I mean, I'm just going to guess he's maybe 4th on that list, but maybe I shouldn't assume. Kershaw, Stone, Knack, Robleski, Walker Buehler, Bobby Miller. Those 6. Give me like, who do you trust the most? People in the chat, by the way, chime in and I'll throw some of these up there.
Who do you trust the most? Out of
those
6 specifically, right?
Unless there's a guy I'm missing. Non-Flaherty Yamamoto Glasnow division.
Okay. I think Kershaw's probably first, sort of like by default, and just trusting that, he's the wily veteran, if you will. And again, when he was healthy last year, he was still a very effective pitcher. Second, I think I'll go Robleski.
Yeah.
Third, I'll give the nod to Gavin Stone. I think he can figure it out. I think we've seen enough from him that like he's capable of getting there. And then fourth, I think Landon Knack.
It's fascinating to me how many people have. I mean, like the first 7 I threw up were either Landon Knack or Justin Robleski. And I understand skepticism about Clayton Kershaw. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. He's 4th on my list. I understand skepticism about Gavin Stone. We did see one good outing from him. But it is one outing, and he had about 6 of his previous 7 before that were like a 7 ERA total. So I understand that. I wonder if Landon Knack is the guy that is kind of maybe flying under the radar. And I know there's people in here who have suggested him. I mean, Landon Knack has 48 innings pitched for the Dodgers. He's allowed 48 base runners and has 44 strikeouts. Like a walks and hits per inning pitched of 1 is really, really good. 44 strikeouts in 48 innings, almost 1 per. Obviously, if you look at his last outing, 4 innings in relief, he comes up, does the job, 1 earned run in that one. But we're talking about a guy who has 10 starter/bulk appearances this season and has an ERA of 3. So again, for me, Landon Knack just provides you a floor, like a baseline of he's not going to be an ace by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he's solid. Landon Knack, I think, might be number 2 for me. Gavin Stone, 3. I like Robleski. Like, I really like Robleski. But I think if you look at the numbers, he, by contrast, has allowed 24 base runners in 20 innings, just 15 strikeouts, 2 or more earned runs in 3 of his 4 starts. So I like Robleski. This is why I'm glass half full, but I think he's behind Stone. So I think I would go Kershaw, Knack, Stone, Robleski, and then, I don't know, throw a dart at Walker Buehler and Bobby Miller. I don't trust any of them. Where are you at on Bobby Miller?
I'm not expecting, I'm not expecting him to be up anytime soon. And frankly, it doesn't seem like the Dodgers are either. Dave Roberts was asked about Bobby Miller before tonight's game, and he basically said that he doesn't really know if or when he'll be up. But I think he kind of reiterated it's sort of about performance still for him a little bit. It just doesn't seem like he's really on the Dodgers' radar at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And rightfully so. I mean, he hasn't done anything to place himself on the radar. And unlike Walker Buehler, they can have him sitting down in the minors and kind of let things play out from there. But I think it's an interesting question about the Dodgers starting pitching and kind of where they go. Jonathan with another super chat here. Excuse me. This season shows the Dodgers aren't all analytics, or otherwise Lux, J-Hay, Kike, Buehler would all be gone now for better or worse. They love, quote, their guys. What's your reaction? You're not an analytics guy, as everybody knows. Have you? I mean, I'm not saying you have to agree with every non-analytics decision, but do you buy the sentiment here that sometimes the Dodgers, who are deemed to be number nerds, heartless, all that kind of stuff, are actually way more loyal to guys than maybe the numbers say they should be?
Definitely, that there is a lot of truth to that, and we've seen it with some of like their veteran signings and stuff like that, like clubhouse culture and things of that nature do matter to the front office, and they do take that into account. So I agree with Jonathan. I think where the analytics shine more so is in like the in-game decisions of, hey, we're not going to let this pitcher face the lineup a third time.
Miguel Rojas today.
Yeah, Miguel Rojas. Yeah, and look, credit to Dave Roberts because he gets crushed for decisions when stuff like that goes wrong. In the moment, like I get Lux's reverse splits, like the emotional side was like, oh, come on, like Lux is hot, like give him a chance in his hometown, like it's Milwaukee. I didn't fully agree with it. I could understand why I didn't fully agree with it. And then of course, Rojas delivers, which again, I have been on the Miguel Rojas train
True.
since the contract extension a couple years back. I was
Ironically or unironically, we're not entirely sure where your Miguel Rojas stance stood, but you have been on that corner.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, I Jonathan, like it is, he brings up a good point. Like they aren't all, analytics all the time and only, playing computer baseball as I and others like to accuse them of sometimes.
Totally. And this is why it'll make the decisions of, as far as designated for assignment decisions that are coming in the next few weeks, really, really fascinated, because I think there are guys like Andy Pages, who from offensive perspective are clearly more valuable than some of these other guys. But Andy Pages is a rookie, and Jason Hayward and Kevin Kiermaier are like respected veteran guys who the front office or the team or the manager seem to love or have a thing for. So it'll be interesting. I do think I would say there are some numbers that would lead you to believe, like Kike Hernandez is a perfect example. His hard hit data has always been really good. Like he's in the 83rd percentile for launch angle sweet spot percentage. He doesn't chase. Average exit velocity is 70th percentile. So I'm sure the Dodgers were looking at some of that and saying, hey, we buy into a little bit that there's going to be a rebound here. But all in all, Jonathan, I agree that I think there is a balance. And I think it's a healthy balance, by the way. As a guy who loves analytics, I think there is a healthy balance to say, we know what the numbers say about Gavin Lux, but we're also watching what happens in the cage, and we understand where his knee has been, and we understand the trajectory of his career, and taking some of that stuff into account, I think matters. Taking clubhouse culture into account matters. And so, but I think it's a great point by you, Jonathan. Another super chat here from Laura. She said, finally read that Gomes say the Dodgers are taking a look at why so many Dodgers pitchers are being seriously injured. Yeah, I mean, nice to hear it. Do you think we ever get the results of this investigation, Matt?
Probably not. And again, I think and in with Gomes' comments, I think he did allude to, it's not just them. It is, sort of league wide, and not that it makes it any less significant by any stretch, because obviously what Gomes is focused on is the Dodgers. I think he would feel for players who are being injured, but if there were other teams and the Dodgers were fine, he wouldn't be giving much thought to this. Maybe they would look at, okay, what did those guys do? How can we prevent it? But again, with all this stuff, and we've been saying, unfortunately, there's not one or even two things you could point at and say, do this, don't do this, change this, don't change that, and that it would solve everything.
Yeah.
But it merits. Dodgers have a very expansive front office, so I'm sure there are plenty of baseball ops people that can certainly dive into maybe seeing if there's one specific trend emerging.
Yeah, I'm sure we will learn some over the course of the coming months and years, and I'm sure there's lots of stuff. Sometimes you wade into the medical side of things and you realize how little we know. You just assume we know lots of things, and then you get into some pockets and they're like, yeah, we don't really know how the brain works. We're just making guesses on why this happens. And you're like, wow, that's fascinating. That's 2024. So I'm sure it's like this. There's so many variables to try and isolate, the pitch clock versus the spin rates versus the velocity versus, just overall muscle mass versus player to player stuff. I just think there's so many things that I'm not holding my breath, excuse me, for a definitive answer to any of this. And so, who knows? We'll see kind of how that one plays out. So again, thank you to everybody for those super chats. We'll get to some more of the questions here as the show goes on towards the end. Let's go back to this one real quick, Matt. Again, the Dodgers lose 5-4 to the Milwaukee Brewers. And let's just run through kind of how this one happened for anybody who missed it. Top of the first, we mentioned the Dodgers jump out to an early lead, 3-0 after reaching on an error, a single, a walk, a strikeout, a sac fly, and a double. 3-0, they jump out. Kike Hernandez, by the way, with a sacrifice fly in that spot. His name's going to come up in a couple big spots here, and the sacrifice fly was the best outcome he had. Unfortunately, the other two sacrifice flies he hit were with 2 outs, so nobody scored on him. Buehler tries to give those runs right back in the bottom of the first, walks the bases loaded with nobody out, if not for a Kevin Kiermaier catch. Incredible throw, incredible play by Barnes at the plate to double the runner off third base, and then all of a sudden he gets out of that inning with no damage done. Bottom of the second, though, the Brewers catch up to him. Home run to Jake Bauers, Bryce Terang, 2 out, RBI triple, followed by a Jackson Churio infield single. 2 of those runs were unearned because of an error by Nick Ahmed. Fourth inning, Garrett Mitchell walks, steals second, advances to third on a error off of Kike Hernandez, and again, scores an unearned run for Walker Buehler. Dodgers in the fifth, though, start to threaten. They put runners on second and third with 2 outs after a Gavin Lux double. And Kike Hernandez, with 2 outs, struggles, can't get the base hit, flies out to end the inning. Top of the seventh, huge moment. Runners at first and third with 2 outs after Teoscar strikes out. They pinch hit Rojas for Lux, and this was the big spot, Matt, against the lefty, which, by the way, side note, we had a lot of people last night asking when we were talking about Gavin Lux splits, hey, has he been better against lefties since he's been killing the ball, July 20th? The answer, unfortunately, not. 2 for 10 with 6 strikeouts against lefties since July 20th. So he's been amazing entirely against righties. I love the decision. It ends up working. Miguel Rojas delivers. All of a sudden, there's runner at first and third, chance to take the lead. Kike Hernandez pops up to second base. His third chance, really, to break this one wide open and can't get to it. Bottom of the seventh, Honeywell leaves with a runner on second. Bad luck for Evan Phillips. An absolute blooper into right field that Mookie Betts tries to field off a short hop. It slips under his glove. The runner scores. Jackson Chourio, his single scores the run 5-4, and the Dodgers end up losing. One other significant play that's worth mentioning here. There was a funky play in this one. I'm forgetting the exact inning when it took place, Matt, but Joey Ortiz on first, runs to second base on a ball that is hit down the left field line, has no idea where the ball is, slides into second base, pops up, doesn't know what's going on, starts to run back towards first base, takes 2 steps, then realizes the ball has dropped in left field and runs directly to third base without touching second. Clayton Kershaw in the dugout says, hey, Dave, go out there, tell him to appeal, tell him how to do it. They do. He's out at third base, and that turned out to be a big moment. So a lot of weird plays, Matt, but that Kershaw one does deserve some acknowledgement.
Yeah, and I think you need to apologize to the chat. They were going through a painful experience, reliving the game tonight. But yeah, the Kershaw thing was such a. I mean, credit to him for spotting that. First of all,
yeah.
Second, like it was so strange. Like Dave Roberts comes out of the dugout, like they're speculating on the broadcast, like are they going to go to a 5-man infield? Are they going to do something crazy? Like are they
just crazy in like the 7th inning or whatever? They're not bringing in a 5th infielder.
It might have even been the 6th. It was kind of early.
You're right. You're right, because the runner scored in the 7th, so it wasn't in that inning.
Yeah, so I remember. Yeah, so when they said that, I was like, man, like that's desperate baseball. But I guess if you feel like that's what you need to do right now. But yeah, for Kershaw to see that, and I joked that it was that play, that sequence was payback for the Brewers getting really cute during the 2018 NLCS and like surprising the Dodgers with an opener in Game 4, it might have been, or 5, I don't remember. It was one of the ones at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. What was the run? I forgot the runners. Who messed up?
Ortiz was the guy who got thrown out at third.
Ortiz, like seeing the replay, like the way he cut in front of second base, you would almost I mean, it was, I don't know. Everything's happening so quickly, but you looking at it, it's like, hey, doesn't that feel weird? Like cutting at that angle? Like, what are you doing? So yeah.
One note about that play, and I don't have a replay, but if somebody goes back and watches it, so the ball lands right on the chalk. It gets thrown into second base, I believe. They call time. If you watch the umpire who's standing right behind second base, and I tweeted this out, I don't know how even to explain this, but he like sticks his hand up in the air, like really awkwardly, right as soon as the play ends, and almost like he's going to point to second base to say the guy missed it, and then catches himself because he can't just call that. It has to be done on appeal, or the ball has to go to second base or whatever it is. So he doesn't. And that was the only thing that tipped me off, that when Dave Roberts came out, I was like, something's happening. And I didn't quite understand it was going to be an appeal. But then once Dave was out there and the way he was like talking and walking and pointing, I was like, so I'm fascinated. I mean, I'm not trying to take any credit away from Kershaw, but I'm just fascinated. I wonder if Kershaw actually picked up on the umpire's behaviors almost more than actually staring at second base and realizing the guy missed it. It just was a very bizarre play. And again, if you watch the second base umpire who ultimately calls out, it was a very bizarre sequence, and he kind of behaved in such a way like he couldn't wait to make that call, and then was like, oh shoot, I'm not allowed to yet. I gotta wait. So
well, I wonder if maybe he thought the Dodgers like recognized it and were going to step on second base, because I think had they done that, like that would have been basically the appeal, and he would have called him out right away. And so maybe he was getting excited for his big moment. I know, ump show is a popular for better or worse, it tends to trend on social media, and so maybe he thought the Dodgers had caught it in that moment, and so he was getting ready to make his big call, and he ended up needing to wait. He still gave it a full, A+ effort when they did go through the whole appeal process.
Yeah, he couldn't wait to get his little fist pump in there. One other thing to note, 0 for 5 tonight, but Shohei Ohtani, 2 stolen bases tonight, moving him to 37 home runs and 35 steals. I believe they said he tied for the second fastest player ever to get to 35 home runs and 35 steals. I don't even know what to say. He steals second, he steals third. He's a total freak. And I mean, what's the number? He's at what, like 118 games or something? I mean, 40-40 is like done. I mean, are we talking 45-45? Is it 45-50? Is it 40-50? What do you think?
I think it needs to be 50-50.
You think he gets to 50 home runs? 13? I mean, 13 home runs, not crazy.
The home runs are the one that I'm worried about, but he also does go through stretches where all of a sudden he gets them in bunches. And so if he could do that a couple times, then I think it becomes pretty plausible. The more realistic
41 games remaining. 41 games. So he'd need a home run, basically one every 3. And he does have more home runs to steal than steals, to your credit. So apparently it's easier for him to hit home runs than it is to steal.
I think realistically, he probably ends up somewhere with like 45 to 47 home runs. And I think he can get to, and maybe like 48 stolen bases. I don't think he ends up getting 50, but it'll be exciting to watch. I mean, hey, if the Dodgers are in a close race throughout the rest of the season and, he's needing to get in a scoring position, then maybe he's running a little bit more than we might anticipate.
Well, and I want the stolen bases will track with home runs, I think is what both of us like. If he's inching towards 45-45, I don't think it's going to be the stolen bases that prevent. I feel like those steals are sitting for him if he wants them. He just has been maybe a little more cautious. But if he gets to like 50 home runs, it's like, you better believe he's stealing 50 bags because those can come in bunches, as we saw tonight. Let's do this. Let's talk about our sponsor, Sorare MLB. We appreciate them. As always, you've heard us talk about them. Sorare MLB. It is a fantasy baseball game based on digital player collectible cards. And it is totally free to join. All you got to do is click the link in the description, draft a team, and start competing every Monday through Thursday. And then again, Friday through Sunday, new competitions twice a week with an entirely start from scratch attitude. You keep the same players, though. So if you draft a guy now, you get to keep that player forever. It's like fantasy baseball, except with keepers and all more than that. If you want to play for money, you could play for money. You could buy cards, sell cards, trade cards, and almost invest like it's the stock market if you want to. So check out Sorare MLB. I haven't looked tonight, but 0 for 5 for Ohtani. Normally bad news, but 2 stolen bases and a run scored should be pretty good for my lineup. So good stuff there from Sorare MLB. We appreciate the support they've had. And again, if you haven't already, please go ahead, click the link to join. They've got other sports coming as well. Fantasy Premier League, if you're into that. I believe they do some NFL stuff as well. So click our link. Get ready for all that upcoming over the next few weeks. All right, Matt, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about a really interesting, funny story as far as I'm concerned. Something that actually there's a backstory to on this show, which is the story that Mookie Betts is once again not staying at the team hotel in Milwaukee for fear of ghosts. This hotel is notoriously haunted, and so Mookie Betts, for the second, third, I don't know how many times in a row, has rented himself an Airbnb not to be in the team hotel. When I say we've got a connection, Steven Nelson was actually on our show talking about haunted hotels and kind of joking, I believe. The joke was that Joe Davis gives him all of the road trips in which haunted hotels are involved. So he's in Milwaukee. It's an allegedly haunted hotel. What's your thought on Mookie Betts avoiding the team hotel? Is this bad teammate behavior? Is this intelligent human behavior? Where are you at?
Yeah, so it's the second year that Mookie has done this. I get it. I mean, fine. Like if you're that, like I think he genuinely is, terrified of ghosts. And the strangest thing to me is that Mookie has also said that he's never had like any sort of paranormal like activity experience. He just knows he doesn't want to tempt fate, basically, or have that, or even create that possibility. So it is kind of funny to see him doing it. For me, like. I don't really know where I land on, like, I'm not inclined to really believe. And like, I don't think I've ever seen a ghost. If I have, I haven't like, recognized it, I guess, that it was happening. So yeah, I mean, and what's funny too, is last year and now so far this year, nobody from the Dodgers has come out and said like, oh yeah, I don't blame Mookie because this, and this happened to me. So like, it does seem like the hotel is fine. I know that it does have a history of other MLB players expressing, some concerns and sharing what they experienced or went through. But yeah, I don't know. Just kind of
Yeah, I
a
think
funny
Rick
little
Monday on
thing.
the broadcast kind of said, like, told stories of like, I know guys that slept in the lobby of this hotel. He told a funny story. I believe it was with Jonathan Broxton playing a prank on a teammate where they had like some rope out the window when they were kind of pulling at the curtains when nobody was in there. I'm with you. If when we talk ghosts, we're talking like somebody who has passed away and then comes back to like haunt that. I'm out on all that. I don't believe in any of it. So, I mean, would you stay in this hotel? Like if you were given the choice and this was kind of the easy sort of no friction decision, otherwise you had to pay more or make your own arrangements elsewhere, like would you defer to making your own arrangements, paying more not to stay here, or what would you do?
I would probably just stay there. And if something happened, then okay, at that point, like fine, I'm packing up and leaving. But yeah, I mean, if it were up to me and if it was easy enough, like it's obviously a nice hotel if it's hosting MLB teams
Yeah.
on their trips to Milwaukee. So yeah, I wouldn't have any issue just staying there at least once.
Yeah, and look, if you're Mookie Betts, like couple $100 a night for an Airbnb in Milwaukee, like who the heck cares? Honestly, there's part of me that's like staying in an Airbnb is a way more enjoyable experience than staying in a hotel most of the time anyways. And so like I'm surprised this isn't more of a thing. I wonder if there's a team exception like only in I believe it's there Tampa Bay. I think maybe the other place that has a haunted hotel, but like I wonder if this is the only place the Dodgers make an exception for. Okay, everybody stays in the team hotel except for Milwaukee. Mookie will let you get your Airbnb.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the only one that it's happened, at least become public knowledge. And I feel like if it were happening, I mean, it now, I guess, well, the Dodgers were just in Tampa Bay, I think last season or the year before. So,
Yeah.
I mean, with the balanced schedule, like that'll happen more often. But yeah, maybe when they go to the other cities, the Dodgers do Mookie a solid and stay at a different hotel. One of the things that they have to factor in too is whatever hotel they're choosing, whether it's in Milwaukee, Tampa Bay, other cities, like it needs to have enough rooms for everybody. It needs to
Yeah.
have like certain players get suites and stuff like that. So that becomes part of the decision making.
Yeah, and I see somebody as we do this in the chat commenting on the fact that it's like, what world do you live in where an Airbnb is convenient? Let's not pretend Mookie Betts is booking this Airbnb. He's got to go online and book this himself. Okay, Mookie Betts has people that take care of these things for him. So, all right, let's shift gears. Let's end with some time for questions here. As always, just throw all caps questions in the chat, and we will get to as many of those as we can. We got about 15 minutes tonight, so should have plenty of time to get to a bunch of those questions. Curious to see where people's heads are at, how they're feeling. Again, Dodgers had won 5 in a row. Vibes were good the last couple of days. And then Walker Buehler out tonight, not looking so hot. Maybe killing some of those vibes for the Dodgers. I'll throw a question at you, Matt, while we're waiting for the chat to populate. I believe it was Bill Plunkett, and he referenced a food item on social media tonight that I had never heard of before. I believe he called it a cheesy Joe, which is a sloppy Joe, but like with melted cheese involved or something like that. Am I the only one that hasn't heard of this item? He just referenced it like everybody knows what it was. And then secondly, I can't decide if that sounds good or terrible.
I missed that. I didn't see him bring that up. I'd never heard of it either. Sloppy Joes in general are not like appealing to me.
I'm with you.
A cheesy one, if you're throwing in a bunch of cheese on it, then maybe I would be inclined to try it. But still, at that point, like I would rather just have a regular burger.
I was going to try and find it, but anyways, somebody might be able to find the tweet where he mentioned it. But yeah, I think it was him. Apologies if it wasn't Bill Plunkett that was referring to Cheesy Joe. But I got nothing. I got nothing on what that is. So shout out to Bill Plunkett. If anybody in the chat's had one before, let me know. So Peyton Brown, why does Kiermaier keep trying to steal bases? Shouldn't he be just grateful to get on base? Jeez Louise. Should he stop stealing, or was this just incredibly bad luck for him to get tagged on his left calf and be thrown out, Matt?
I don't think he should necessarily be running. I guess obviously the situation can change my stance on it, but generally speaking, I think there are going to be more times than not where Kiermaier just shouldn't be trying to steal a base.
I joked Nick Ahmed batting 9th behind Kiermaier and Austin Barnes. That has to mean he's getting DFA'd, right? Like that's the loudest possible negative endorsement he could possibly get for where he stands, right?
I mean, the lineup notwithstanding, yes, I think no matter what, like he was probably just going down that path anyway.
Yeah, it was, yeah, exactly. We talked a week ago about Dave's comments. Like they were specifically asked about Ahmed, and it was kind of like, we got a lot of tough decisions coming, that kind of thing. Okay, let's get to a couple more of these questions. Noisy Ninja, do the Dodgers offer Buehler a 1-year deal, or do they save that money for a different pitcher? I'll let you answer first.
Yeah, at this rate, I don't see them honestly offering him any sort of contract, even, 1 million with incentives type. Like, I don't know if they'll want to go down that path.
I hope they offer him $10 million to be an assistant pitching consultant for the next 2 years. Like, I want them to find a way to reward this man for what he has given to the organization. The fact that he did it all basically on a rookie deal where he never totally got paid. And yet there's no chance they can spend a 26-man roster spot on this guy. And with all the luxury tax penalties, you can't justify paying him much of anything. So sadly, unless over the next month and a half, he establishes himself as like a valuable reliever, which is not going to happen, by the way. I just don't think that Walker Buehler is going to have a chance here. Godfrey with the super chat. Great shows again, guys. Really appreciate the time and effort you guys put into the show. We appreciate the kind words. We're lucky to do what we get to do. So thank you all for being with us every night. I know some of these tend to be more fun than others. There's a joke that somebody joked about a job. Like, there's days when you do it because you love it, and there's days you do it because you get paid. There are definitely some nights where we do it because we get paid, but so to speak. But tonight is not one of those nights. Even after a tough loss, I love being able to hop in here and just process with people, get perspectives, and just hang out with people that I enjoy hanging out with. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for joining us on nights like tonight. Even when the Dodgers lose, even when it's not going to be all positive vibes necessarily, it makes the positive vibes night, I think, Matt, even more sweet, right?
Yeah, definitely. And just real quick to piggyback off what you're saying, I do want to thank everybody that has joined us pretty much on a nightly basis every week. When we were planning out doing more live shows, we did wonder, like, are people going to get sick of us? And fortunately, that has not been the case yet. If you're sick of me, I totally understand. That's why I want Jeff hosting. I want Scott hosting. I want all the other guys rotating in, so you don't have to just hear from me. But yes, definitely a big thank you, Godfrey, for the super chat, and to everybody that's always in here with us.
Absolutely. Let's get to a few more questions here. Let's see. I just scrolled up past. Christopher wants to know, if the Dodgers play the Padres, should the Dodgers avoid starting Clayton Kershaw? They have his number. Kershaw's last 2 seasons against the Padres, 0-2, 7.56 ERA. What do you think, Matt? Is this like the type of thing that you look into and say, hey, if we're going to move some guys around anyways, let's try and avoid this? Or do you say it's Clayton Kershaw, we'll take our chances?
I mean, it's Clayton Kershaw. They're gonna stick by him, and I get the concern. The last 2 seasons, it's definitely the most recent that has happened. But also, if you look at like Kershaw's career stats at Petco and against the Padres, like, they are very good. So, and the Dodgers tend to weigh the bigger picture, not necessarily always zeroing in on a smaller sample size. But yeah, I mean, I think if Clayton Kershaw, look, I know we've addressed this a couple. If Clayton Kershaw is healthy, he's going to be in the postseason rotation. Like, that's it. The Dodgers don't have enough other good pitchers that would be better options than him.
Yeah, I think River Ryan was kind of the last chance of a guy who maybe had a chance to knock Kershaw off just because the ceiling was so high. And again, we could debate that. We don't need to. He's out for the season, and I don't think anybody else has established themselves in such a way as to say they're guaranteed to even be in contention with that. Lewis asked a question we've talked a little bit about. How many starts after tonight do the Dodgers give Walker? I said 1. It sounded like you were on the same page.
I'll say they end up giving it.
Practice. How many do you think they actually do? You think they give?
I think they'll do. I think they'll give him 2.
Okay, I'm going with 1. At least that's what I would do. I think that's what the Dodgers would do. I understand the sentiment for 2. I don't think it's going to be less than 1. I'll put it that way.
Laura's saying 0, but yeah.
Have we gotten any? By the way, Matt, as I'm going through these questions, have we seen anything on social media, Dave Roberts quotes or Walker Buehler quotes or anything like that?
No, not a whole lot, unfortunately. Let me see. I can try doing a quick scroll, but I was checking my phone to see. No.
Okay. Well, while you look, we'll get to a couple. Obi-Wan wants to know, do you think we'll lose first place this weekend? Dodgers at the Cardinals this weekend, home for the Mariners next week, home for Tampa Bay, and then home for Baltimore. That's kind of their next 10. Do the Dodgers between now and then, so 4 games till the end of the weekend, are the Dodgers still in first place on Monday morning, Matt?
Yes.
Yeah. You want to go a step further?
3.5 up.
Let's see. Do the Diamondbacks or Padres? Let's get real sophisticated here. Diamondbacks do not play tomorrow, and the Padres also do not play tomorrow. So Dodgers will be a full number, either 2 or 3 games up, depending on how they do against the Brewers tomorrow. Flaherty on the mound. We're going to win. So that's 3-game divisional lead with 3 games to go. You said they're going to be 2 games up?
3.5.
3.5. So, well, it's got to be an even number. So you didn't know that
okay.
because you got to go 3 or 4.
I'll do 3.
Okay. I'm going 4. Let's just be optimistic. Up 3 tomorrow. Dodgers sweep the Cardinals. They win the next 4, gain a game in the division. Sign me up for that. That sounds crazy based on the way those other 2 teams are playing, but no, Obi-Wan, we do not think that. I like this question from Derek. Matt, you're going to love this. Do you think one day AI makes lineup decisions?
The minute that happens, I'm retiring on the spot because AI is not for me. I think I won't be so short-sighted. I think there can be some uses for it. I think the way it's trying to be utilized in a lot of different industries right now is not productive.
I think AI will be helpful in like defensive positioning type stuff. I think as a starting point, I even think as far as lineup decisions, I could see a world where it kind of spits out a rough draft for a lineup, and then the manager, the front office, whoever can kind of go in and make some tweaks. But I mean, realistically, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, realistically, that's what's already happening. That's the point I'm making is like they're already looking at all of the data that, and I'm not saying they've optimized how to use it, but on a team like the Dodgers, they've probably gotten fairly close to optimizing it already. Scooter asking a question we kind of similar but different. Are you concerned with the Padres and Diamondbacks who are looking like they are breathing down our necks? I remember reading the Padres have one of the easier schedules, though not sure of the Snakes. Yes, definitely. I remember the month of August. So we're almost to the end of the month. That was when Greg Bergman introduced to me, like, have you looked at the schedules for these teams over the next few weeks? So we're not quite to the end of August. I guess we're not even halfway. So halfway through August, which is easier for the Padres. What would you say the level of concern is, Matt? If you were holding a ticket for the Dodgers to win the National League West, how concerned would you be about your ability to cash that ticket in a couple of months?
Maybe like 35% concerned. I don't know how that translates to odds just because that's not my world. I mean, look, I credit again to the Diamondbacks and Padres for playing as well as they have. I don't know if they can sustain basically 800 baseball to close out, over the next 6 weeks type thing. And I think the Dodgers, their better days are ahead of them. We've seen some of it with Mookie coming back. Max Muncy and Tommy Edman should be back next week. Ryan Brazier back this weekend. Yamamoto, hopefully at some point. Like, there are reasons, I think, to be optimistic.
We've talked about the odds. By the way, the Dodgers still today minus 320 to win the division. The Padres plus 450. The Diamondbacks plus 600. So those numbers are coming down. I know someone who may or may not have dipped their toes into the Padres at plus 650 as a tiny little emotional hedge in case things go south. But the Dodgers, the point being, still heavy favorites in the National League West to win that, according to Vegas. And in case you didn't know, Vegas is not in the business of losing money. They're not in the business of playing favorites. It's all AI and nerds over there, Matt, and they think the Dodgers are going to win. Jason wants to know if the Diamondbacks or Padres ever lose again. Come on, Jason. They've only won 10 of their last 11. It's not like they've won 11 in a row.
Yeah. No, in 2021, I kept saying the Giants aren't going to keep up their pace, and I was incredibly wrong on that. So Diamondbacks and Padres are, as much as I just said, they're not going to play 800 baseball to finish season. To answer Jason's question, I've changed my mind. They will win every game from here on out and keep the pressure on the Dodgers.
I see someone saying I'm obsessed with betting. Don't tell my wife you agree with her on that. Okay, we're talking small wagers once or twice a day. Typically, we're in the green, baby. It's an investment, Matt. It's an investment. Nothing irresponsible over here. All right. Peyton asked a question. If the Dodgers do keep Buehler around, will they use him in the bullpen? Do you think we ever see Walker Buehler as a reliever this year?
I don't think so because one, in the past, he's been open about just not being comfortable in that role. I think on one hand, he's at a different point in his career, so maybe he would be more willing to trying to find a solution to accepting a bullpen role. But considering what we've seen from him, he's not going to be better than the other options they have, or most of the other options they have in the bullpen, and especially with his walk issue. Like if that doesn't get under control, like you can't have a relief pitcher come in and start walking a bunch of guys when it's the 5th, 6th, 7th inning.
Yeah, I'm with you. We were talking about Honeywell possibly getting DFA'd. I'm like, I kind of like Honeywell. Like, I'm not DFAing Honeywell to try out Walker Buehler in the bullpen because I think Honeywell's productive. Like, what's the best case version of Walker Buehler? Is it really better than Brent Honeywell, who's like the 10th best reliever they have on the 40-man roster? I'm sort of joking about that and, secretly sort of not joking at all when I say that. Scott wants to know, what's with starting Kevin Kiermaier, Austin Barnes, and Nick Ahmed all at the same time? I know Kiermaier had a good game, but mix those guys up a little bit. Come on, Matt. Tell them that they started their better catcher tonight, and I don't know why people are complaining, right?
That is true. I mean, if you look at the last, I haven't looked recently, but about a week ago, if you looked at the last 10 game stretch, 15 game stretch, it was very clear who should be the Dodgers
started a
catcher.
Few days ago and then go back this exact amount of time. Austin Barnes way better than Will Smith.
To the Kevin Kiermaier question, I mean, Andy Pages center field, we've seen it enough times, it's a roller coaster out there, and sure, he's swinging the bat better recently, so that's helped. Yeah. But Kiermaier's out there for defense. He did get a double tonight.
2 hits.
Yeah. So hey, and Nick Ahmed, I think they're letting him audition for other teams before potential roster change.
Yeah, Rojas can't play every day is basically where they're at shortstop. And so until Tommy Edman is more in the mix, it's going to be a lot of Kiermaier in center field. To your point, none of us want. I don't like Kevin Kiermaier personally. I don't have anything personally against him. He's not a player that I'm super fired up that he's a Dodger necessarily. And yet I would rather see him in the lineup and out there, I think, than Andy Pages playing center field. So, I think that's part of it. A couple more here, and then we've got a fun food one. How much do you think it matters to win the West? Rod wants to know. Do you think it matters to the Dodgers, Matt?
Yes. I took this more as how much value do I see in it, and I think the Dodgers do want to win the division. They have been pretty open about that being their goal, because I think they see the benefit in then not having to play now a best of 3 wild card series. So I think it does matter. I know that considering the new playoff form, the expanded playoff format, and what that means, there's been some pushback as to is it better to just keep playing after the regular season and get hot? I don't know if there's one right or wrong answer, but I still do believe that there is value to winning your division. And right now the Dodgers are also not only just trying to win the NL West, but they have the best record, or one of the best records in the National League, which that has the most importance to me, is getting the number 1 seed in the National League to have home field advantage, at least up until the World Series, depending on who comes out of the AL.
Yeah, look, the division matters to these guys. It matters from a mental perspective, I think, to be able to say, hey, we've won, whatever it is, 11 out of 12 division titles, that kind of a thing. So, and to your point, I know there's all this stuff about, maybe it hurts to have a few days off. Look at who we're talking about with the Dodgers. Look at all the conversations we're having about how overtaxed the bullpen is, how we don't know who the 4th starter is going to be. This is literally the team that needs as many days off as humanly possible in right before key games. And so I think it matters a lot. GI wants to know, do you use the 40-man roster spot once Ryan goes to the 60-day to call up Henriquez? The answer is going to be no here. The 40-man is already a disaster from a roster crunch perspective. They're going to need this 40-man spot once Edman and Muncy both come back. Then they will they'll have to take somebody else off of the 40-man roster just to make room for those 2 guys. So Henriquez, the problem is if they call him up this year, they have to put him on the 40-man, which when Ryan Brazier comes back, they're going to have to take somebody off the 40-man. When Yamamoto comes back, they're going to have to take someone off the 40-man. So they just don't have room, even if that might be helpful. They just don't have the room to do it.
Yeah, I think the more likely scenario, I forget, Jeff, if I shared this with you or maybe Daniel in one of our shows, is if Henriquez is an option, it'll be for the play. Basically, he'd be making his MLB debut in the playoffs, where they get through the regular season. Maybe they have a little bit more flexibility, leeway. They can figure out who they DFA at that point, add him to the 40-man. Because I think, was it in the video you did with Justin and Ben? Doesn't he have to get added to be protected from the Rule 5 draft this offseason anyway?
That sounds right. I'd have to look that up.
Okay, so that's a possibility, but I think, like I said, best case scenario would be they get through the regular season, they're about to set their roster for the NLDS, and they've decided they want Henriquez to be in their bullpen, and they've DFA'd so and they've added him to the 40-man roster at that point.
It is worth pointing out, I thought I remembered something and I just looked it up. you actually have to be on the 40-man roster prior to August 31st
That's right.
in order to appear in a postseason game.
No. I think you just need to be in the organization, I thought.
This says, according to MLB, in a typical season, any player who's on the 40-man or 60-day injured list as of 11:59 p.m. on August 31st is eligible for the postseason. Those on the restricted list are also eligible. A player who doesn't meet the criteria can be added to a team's roster via petition to the commissioner's office. If the player was in the organization on August 31st and is replacing someone who is on the injured list and has served the minimum amount of time required for activation. So basically, if a guy is on the injured list, but he's already served his 10-day minimum or whatever, players who are acquired in September or after are completely ineligible. So I guess to your point, there is a little bit of a loophole there. And the Dodgers will probably have plenty of guys who have served the minimum amount of time on their injured list stay. But yeah, I just think it's going to be complicated there. Godfrey with another super chat. Is there any way we can fire Roberts and hire Rojas as the manager? Two thoughts on this. One is, some point in the last few days, I can't remember, these games blend together. Miguel Rojas basically stopped the game, came up to the relief pitcher, and completely calmed everybody down. Completely calmed a guy down, and I'm blanking on the name. I don't know if you're remembering what situation. Somebody in the chat helped me out. But it was some point in the last few days where Rojas came up to a reliever and basically stopped the bleeding very, very quickly. And it was huge. So kudos to Miguel Rojas. I think that was a huge moment, and I noticed it. Tonight's not the night to criticize Dave Roberts. He brought in Miguel Rojas. Everybody hated the decision because of Lux and all that kind of a thing. And guess what? Rojas gets the hit. From a pitching perspective, like, there wasn't anything egregious that he did. I don't know. Like, tonight wasn't the night that I had issues with Dave Roberts.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, the Dodgers have done. It's not like they're about around 500 or in really struggling in the division or just overall. So any Dave Roberts decision, like, I'm not gonna say based off this 2-week stretch in the regular season, like, he needs to be done. Like, that referendum potentially will come in October. And if the Dodgers, for whatever reason, have another kind of repeat of the last 2 years, then I think, we can definitely have a serious discussion. I was ready to have it last winter, and the Dodgers weren't. But I think, depending on how things go this postseason, that will be the possible time, the earliest point at which, something like this, not maybe Rojas specifically, although Miguel Rojas has expressed an interest in wanting to be a manager. So Godfrey, you're definitely on the right path there with him being a candidate. But with Dave specifically, we need to wait until the playoffs.
All right, couple more questions here. Let's see. Oh man, where did it go? Okay, we'll go to this one because this is a food question I thought was a fun one. Oh, we just got a super chat. Do you think the NL West can finish with the top 3 records in the National League? Seems unfair that 2 will be the wild card. It's worth pointing out the Dodgers only have 4 games remaining with the Diamondbacks and 3 with the Padres. I don't know how often those 2 teams play each other. They play the last 3 games. So there's not going to be a ton of handing each other losses. There's basically, a combined, 10 total games divvied up between the 2, obviously. So, it doesn't seem crazy to me, Matt, to look at the standings and to say it's possible right now. 69 wins, which is what the Padres and Diamondbacks both have. They're basically 2 games behind the Phillies for the second best record in the National League. And the Phillies are a half a game back of the Dodgers. So this isn't crazy. Look, again, the Dodgers are 7-3 in their last 10 and are losing ground in the division. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think I don't think the 3 teams from the NL West will have the top 3 records. I think 2 of the 3 will have 2 of the 3 best records in the National League. So it'll be the Dodgers and one of the Diamond. I'm not making.
You can't just say one of, Matt. This is where we're at in the show. We're at the hour 5 mark, and you're going to say I think one of these teams has the second best record in the league, but I'm not going to take a stand on the Padres or the Diamondbacks. Come on now.
I think it'll go Phillies best record in the National League, Dodgers second, Padres third.
Okay, yeah, I think Dodgers, Padres, 2 best records in the National League. How about that? Dodgers win the division by 2 games. Little sweat fest down the stretch, but the Dodgers hold.
I mean, that's what everybody's been asking for, right? Like September, it would get boring in recent years, and so now the Dodgers are going to make it interesting.
Yeah. Let's do one. This is another good question here from Rod. Let's do this one, and then we'll get to a food question or two and call it a night. What are the 3 keys to the Dodgers winning the World Series? Like, what are the 3 things, Matt, if you could be granted 3 wishes? And when I say wishes, I mean realistic wishes. For these 3 things to happen, you say, you give me these 3 things, then I think the Dodgers have a very, very, very good chance of being in the World Series, winning the World Series. What would those 3 things be?
So getting their big injured guys back, Muncy, Yamamoto,
And keeping them back.
and them staying healthy. Yes, basically.
Yeah.
So like getting healthy in the sense of like those guys coming back and staying healthy, and I'll include Edman, even though he hasn't played this year. Like they're banking on him to be a contributor. So if he's not, like things could get a little dicey. So that's 1.
Yeah.
2 would be the starting pitching figuring itself out.
Yeah.
And not that it needs to be everybody's going to go 6 or 7 innings every time, but at least give 5 innings and keep the game, don't get completely shelled.
Yeah.
3 would be Ohtani just going on an absolute heater in October and basically carrying, however much of the lineup he needs to.
Yeah. I think the first one I'm with you is like just getting healthy. Like if you tell me I get to wake up in the NLDS and Yamamoto is healthy, Glasnow is healthy, and Flaherty is healthy, and Mookie, Ohtani, Freddie Freeman are healthy, like I feel really good. The second one's the obvious one, which is like, I don't even need guys to necessarily go nuclear. I just need them not to be atrocious. I need higher than a 5th percentile outcome for every one of the Dodgers' good offensive players. So, if I wanted to simplify that, let me say this one. I think Will Smith bouncing back is going to be a huge deal for this team. I think Will Smith and Max Muncy, I'll package those 2. I think those guys are really, really important to the middle of the Dodgers order, to lengthening the order. And if I could have 2 wishes beyond the top 3 guys being fine, which I'm not worried about, it would be Will Smith and Max Muncy kind of being themselves. Again, not going nuclear, but just being themselves. I think that would be a big one. And then I think the bullpen has the capacity to be great. And if that's the case, like if we're talking about Trinan being back, Hudson being back, Phillips being back, Vesia still being very good, Kopech continuing to be good. Like we're talking about 5 or 6 guys, Banda being the other one. And I apologize, I mispronounced his name. Juan Toribio calling him Banda Express or whatever screws up my pronunciation every single time. Anthony Banda. I think they got 6 guys who are like legit. I wouldn't hate in a big spot in the postseason. And so give me health, give me Muncy and Will Smith being themselves, and then give me just the bullpen performing at the level I think they're capable of. And that's what I would go with. So that's what I got.
The beauty of that question is there are multiple ways for the Dodgers to get there. So it doesn't need to be that only one set of 3 things need to happen. If one from this group, one from that group, then hey, get hot and go win a World Series.
I mean, I really believe this. If the Dodgers play to their potential, they're the best team in baseball. Like, I'm not saying like, I don't even need you require things to break your way. But if you just tell me, hey, these guys are healthy, the Dodgers are healthy going into the postseason, and they just play to their level, like their normal standard that they have set for themselves in the regular season. Nobody has a Corey Seager-esque run in the postseason. You just have guys doing what you expect them to do. If they do that, I think the Dodgers are the best team in baseball. I don't think anybody can compete with them. From a bullpen perspective, I think they're really good. I think their lineup's the best in baseball. And if you're giving me Glasnow, Flaherty, and Yamamoto all healthy in 1, 2, and 3, and then I've just got to figure out like Kershaw, Stone, Robleski, Knack, whoever in the 4th spot or a bullpen game because I love the bullpen that much, like I feel really, really good about that. Do you agree? Like, I mean, if I just told you the Dodgers play to their potential from here on out, I would go, not to bring betting back into this, I would go place a bet on the Dodgers to win the World Series tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I mean, I see Laura saying Muncy will not be himself. We've been down this road. That's also a reasonable concern, but we haven't been down this road after Muncy saw a miracle chiropractor. This is the first time we were experiencing this. So we need to understand that that's some magic power right there.
Exactly. Super chat from Zip Code 0. Best GM in Major League Baseball, top 3 farm system, unlimited checkbook, World Series champs, or see you later, Dave Roberts. Best regular season record, doesn't cut it. I appreciate the super chat. And I think you're in alignment with a lot of the things that have been said on this show in the past. I've been a Dave Roberts defender, but I would not be surprised if the Dodgers have another disappointing exit of the postseason, and you can define that however you want to define it. But I think if they have another disappointing exit, I really do think there's going to be a ton of real pressure for the first time. I think real pressure, real heat on Dave Roberts.
Yeah, I think I get what zip codes, and thank you for the super chat. I get what the sentiment here. I agree. Like, if the Dodgers were to finish with the best record in baseball and then get eliminated in the NLDS, then who cares about the regular season? I think the only chance scenario where I see the Dodgers making a change with Dave Roberts is if the Dodgers lose in the NLDS again. Assuming that the team isn't like a shell of itself for whatever reason. Like, they went into it, something happened with, I mean, I don't even want to put stuff out there, but if the team just like didn't get healthy the way they kind of anticipated, and they were, kind of a walking mash unit. But yeah, I think if they are relatively healthy and it's another NLDS exit, I think that would be enough to make a change.
We do have a quote from Walker Buehler. This from Sportsnet LA. Quote, "I feel closer than I did a couple months ago, but as I've said, at the end of the day, there's a standard of performing here, and I'm very aware of where I'm at in that standard. So keep plugging away." No surprises there to me.
Yeah, I mean,
it's tough.
He basically he gave that same quote to Bill Plunkett yesterday. Kind of understanding that there is a standard and he needs to pitch better. So I mean, he recognizes it, like he knows. And that's one thing. Like, look, I get there's frustration and disappointment with Buehler, but I think he does deserve some credit for standing up there and basically saying, like, yeah, like, I haven't been good, and it hasn't been good enough, and I know that. Like, there is value and merit to that. And I mean, that's like, you want to be able to, to steal an adage from Dave Roberts. You want to be able to bet on the person. So that's what I think the Dodgers are going to do. Like we said earlier, I think they give him, at least one more start, probably two, and then they evaluate after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do see some people, by the way, commenting on the Dave Roberts conversation and ask, well, who replaces Dave Roberts as the Dave Roberts defender? That's always the question I've asked. Like, it's very easy to say, fire this person. It's very hard to go tell me the name of the person who will definitely do a better job.
Miguel Rojas.
Miguel Rojas. After a career year, you think he's retiring?
Maybe.
Guy's going to get like a 9-figure extension, and Matt's trying to make him a manager. Jeez, this guy says he believes in Miguel Rojas. This is what I'm talking about, people. He says he believes in Miguel Rojas, and then he wants him to retire the next year. That's shameful, Matt.
It's more of just understanding that there's a bigger purpose in store for him, and he's ready to become an MLB manager and really impact the sport that way.
Jeez. All right. Richard asked this question a long time ago. Dairy Queen, Baskin Robbins, or Thrifty? Where's your go-to ice cream place, Matt?
Well, for Richard, this is a great question, but Dairy Queen does not belong in the same tier as Baskin Robbins and Thrifty.
It's higher or lower?
No, it's lower.
What?
Yeah.
Dairy Queen easy is my answer on this one.
No, I'm going to Baskin Robbins. And again, like I've expressed, I really like Jamocha almond fudge ice cream. So if I want ice cream, it needs to be Jamocha almond fudge from Baskin Robbins. So that's where I'm going.
Wow. That's okay. I was going to ask what your go-to is. This is Dairy Queen, a blizzard, like in a landslide. Now, somebody threw this out there. Where would Cold Stone be on this list? Ahead or above or below Dairy Queen?
Below Dairy Queen, mainly because I just haven't been there. I haven't been there enough times. And the couple times I did go, I felt like it was a little overpriced and overrated.
Yeah.
With the caveat of I haven't been to Cold Stone probably in 15 years, 12 years, 10 years. Like, it's been a really long time.
Sweet cream ice cream with brownie mixed in at Cold Stone. It might be my favorite ice cream I've ever had. Dairy Queen, an easy second. We had a Thrifty down the street from me when I grew up. It's classic, a little rainbow sherbet. But I mean, come on. It's Thrifty to me is the one that's in its own tier. I really like Baskin Robbins, some mint chocolate chip, Elite, cookie dough. They got lots of good stuff. But I'm going Cold Stone 1, Dairy Queen 2, Baskin Robbins 3, and then a Grand Canyon sized gap to Thrifty ice cream in 4th.
No respect for a legend of Thrifty ice cream.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a legacy brand.
Like, look, the right response to this would be like, this is like comparing Five Guys to In-N-Out when one costs $5 and the other costs $14. Thrifty, I don't know what it costs now. When I was growing up, it was $1. It was like a quarter. I don't even know what it was. It was basically free. It felt like to get Thrifty ice cream. And that was not the case at Cold Stone. I can assure you of that. So there we go, folks. As always, we appreciate you joining us here on Dodger Heads presented by DodgerBlue.com. Again, check out our sponsor, Sorare MLB. You can sign up in on the link below. Jeez Louise, the cough. This cough will not leave me. It's like 4 to 6 weeks ongoing. I promise I'm alive and not dying. That is Matthew Moreno. I am Jeff Spiegel. Check out DodgerBlue.com, DodgerBlue1958 on social media. And of course, if you're new here, please subscribe and ring the notification bell below. Dodgers lose 5-4, 2.5 game lead in the division, but hey, still first place in the division. So as always, go Dodgers.